Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Adam Moriarty.
Yeah, that's me. It's your boy Adam Moriarty, IELTS Challenger Coach from Mobalytics here.
Yeah, and it's your other boy Locodoco. We're gonna talk about tier list again. 10.7 just hit, and Mobalytics, they're a great website. They take a lot of the stats and they compile it and they think about it too, and they give you a tier list. So yeah, let's talk about which champions you should be playing in low elo, because you guys are all low elo. What is low elo?
Low elo, so we define it as people who are trying to hit gold or platinum.
Okay. What is like majority of the player base?
Majority of player base is around silver right now,
Uh-huh.
Or like low gold.
Low gold?
In terms of like who's playing ranked. Ranked population is different depending on server, but most of the league population doesn't even play ranked. So.
Okay. So anyways, these are some easy and good champs that you should be playing. Let's start with top lane.
Yep.
So the first one I see that stands out to me is like, what the hell is Nasus doing here? The dog champ.
Okay, so this is a really interesting champion. So stat-wise, if you're in gold or trying to hit platinum, he's got a 53% win rate right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the second you hit diamond, he goes to like 50% or below.
Okay.
So he's like, right now, after the buffs he received, he got the wither increase. And then also the armor shred on E. He's actually just a really, really powerful champion. And then people have actually started to go conquer on him. I know there was a build where people were going like, I was like heal ghost with spellbook, and that one stat-wise is just awful when I looked it up. And then there's also like the standard grasp, but conquer is the one that's doing the best right now on Nasus. So you combine the conquer and Nasus with the fact that he got buffs, he's actually just completely overperforming in low elo. So that's why he's there.
I mean, Garen, Darius, we see them all the time, so no need to talk about them as much. Just really simple, straightforward champions. Just kills everything, doesn't really die, can't really mess up. Why is Shen and Kled so high?
Yeah, so I actually think Shen's a mistake on the site. I think Mordekaiser's actually supposed to be there instead. But Shen's actually, stat-wise, he's an S tier champion, but his play rate's a little bit low. So that's why we kind of move him up and down once in a while. The thing about Shen is that ever since the Sunfire buffs, Titanic Hydra buffs came in, some individual buffs to his Q and taunt damage, he's actually been doing really well in the top lane. He's just straight up winning lane, which is odd for him. Because normally Shen's like a very passive laner, you're making, the ulti plays across the map. But Shen's just hard stomping lane ever since people figured out you can just rush Titanic Hydra. And that's why he's there. So he's like hard winning lane, and then he makes it so your bot lane doesn't feed as hard.
Okay. What about Kled?
So he started doing a lot better when both Titanic and Ravenous got buffed, and then you combine it with the fact that turret plates got increased. He's a champion that statistically is one of the best early game champions in the game. So like pre 25 minutes, he has the third highest win rate out of any champion. So he's just like a monster early game champion. So when you give the extra play money from a couple of patches ago, and then also people have been testing out Bork early on him, which is pretty successful.
Everyone just goes Bork now.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things. So he's just hard snowballing lane, and it's hard for pretty much anyone else to beat him in lane phase right now.
Okay. Is there any champions from A tier that you want to bring up and we should talk about?
So some of them that are kind of interesting from A tier are Fiora and Aatrox. So they're both champions that are considered normally really strong in high elo, but even in low elo right now, they're performing pretty well with roughly 51% on Aatrox and then 51 to 52 on Fiora, even in low elo, which is really, really good for how popular they are. So when you think about champions like Garen, Nasus, they might be really good in low elo. They might get you to gold and platinum, but they're not going to get you a lot higher than that. So if you're looking for a champion that you want to invest in long term, it's going to let you climb in high elo, Fiora and Aatrox are probably your best bet. I also want to give a shout out to Volibear because that champion is sleeper OP. I've even seen some EUS pro players like Blippo trying it out in top lane. It's doing pretty well. It's very, very lane dominant.
Okay. What makes Volibear so good in lane?
So one, the E that he has, the fact that it interrupts dashes means a lot of people are having trouble trading into him. And then he just hits you up with the SWAT 3 times into bite, and it becomes hard to duel him too because of his passive. So it's mostly just, it's not only like difficult to deal with his damage, but it's difficult to deal damage to him because of the way that he can interrupt combos. So for example, like Riven comes in, and she tries to use her third Q, then he can either flip the third Q or use his interrupted. Same thing with like Aurelia. He can just interrupt Aurelia E, she can't really do, or Aurelia Q, and she can't really do much. Jack tries to leap in, interrupts it with E or flip. It's hard to duel him, and then he actually has way more damage than what you would think. It's very similar to trying to beat up a Darius. Like, even if you gank Volibear when he turns his ultimate on, he can probably 1v2 it.
Well, now let's go to the jungle. Looks like all the S tiers have stayed pretty much the same.
Yep.
Master Yi, Warwick, Amumu, Zac, all very easy, hard to fuck up champions that also jungle really well.
So the new additions this time around, Wukong moved down in the jungle because of the nerfs.
Thank God.
Yeah, basically the E nerfs impact his jungle a little bit more because that's what he was maxing, so he could clear a little bit easier. Then we have Kha'Zix actually moving up into A tier. He's an interesting one just because historically assassin junglers do really bad in low elo, and he's one of them that just hasn't been doing well, but he's got around a 51% win rate, and he's got around a 10% play rate, which is really good for a champion of his nature where he's supposed to be bad in low elo. And the reason behind it is basically, you probably guessed it, but it's Conqueror, Bruiser Kha'Zix that's doing really well, while Assassin is doing a little bit less. So the Electrocute Lethality setup is a lot harder to execute because you're squishy, one mistake you die in a team fight, but if you evolve Q and then W on Kha'Zix, you grab Black Cleaver with Conqueror, grab a Death Dance, you can go Dustblade as well if you're still snowballing because it's good on him. But it just makes it so that he becomes like really strong duelist. Melee champions get kited out by the W. It's just way easier to execute and way more consistent of a pick. So we moved him to A tier.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually function like Kha'Zix, and he functions more like a different champion. Because
he functions like a bruiser.
QW, you're healing from the W, you're slowing people.
Right. You're going Conqueror with Domination Secondary for even more healing. Ivern's an interesting one too because he got some really big buffs on the patch.
Oh god, I don't think anyone should be playing Ivern. That champion is not fun. It's not fun to play as. It's not fun to play against. It's just there to annoy everybody on the map.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much how it is. But he got some pretty big buffs. The Daisy reduced at early levels, and then E up 30 base damage. So the fact that you're getting that out so much more often because you're spamming CDR early and it's your main spell is huge. So we slotted him into A tier for now. He might drop down to B, but he's actually a pretty strong champion in this kind of meta because when you think about it, a lot of, if you scroll back up to top lane, you look at all of the powerful top laners, they're all melee-oriented like juggernauts. So when Ivern comes in, he gives Darius a shield, he gives Nasus a shield, and he gives them an extra way to come into the fight with his Q. It's actually like a big deal. Like, if Ivern hits a Q and then Darius comes in on you off of it, you just die, so...
Okay. Now let's get to mid. Ooh, this is my favorite lane right now.
Yeah,
I love playing mid. Yeah. It's so much more fun than AD carry, and you have so much avenues to actually showcase your skill.
I mean, yeah, it's why it's actually the role that requires the most fundamentals. So if you're ever like trying to like learn League of Legends itself and not really climb, like mid lane is always the best role to learn from because you're required to do pretty much everything, and it's also has the most diverse champion pool out of any role. So
yeah, or you can be a support player and not learn pretty much like 70% of the game.
Yeah.
And get to Diamond 4 playing
Exactly.
like Janna or something, or Soraka or Sona, just on like the right patch. And then you try to switch roles, and then you realize you're still like a gold player.
It's probably even worse than that. They're probably silver. But yeah, so one of the big changes was the Veigar buffs. So we actually saw him in S tier. Stat-wise, he doesn't completely deserve to be an S tier champion. He's got around a 52 to 53% win rate, which isn't normally as high as things like Fizz or Diana, but because we currently don't have a god tier, it doesn't really make any sense to compare them to those godly champions. So Veigar in low elo is really interesting because he's normally not very good against assassins, but what does happen is he's so good at team fighting at level 13 that it doesn't seem to matter. Once the cage is maxed out, because you're supposed to max a second, he's just way too strong. That thing pretty much covers the entire team fight, covers the entire lane, and even if the assassin snowballed, they have trouble actually getting in and properly team fighting because the stun's just going to stop whatever they're doing. That's the big things. Also, low elo games on average just last longer. I've mentioned this before. So champions like Kassadin and Veigar get a chance to scale and do pretty well.
Yeah, so Kassadin always hits level 16 in low elo.
Yeah, so that's really what it is. Now, Veigar obviously starts to do worse the higher up you go. He's still a valuable counter pick, even in competitive, but he's not someone you can like realistically like main in high elo and just like blind pick him. I think at that point it's pretty troll, but in low elo, you're pretty safe to do so.
I see Pike's on there. I know you guys had like a Pike video on like why mid lane Pike is good.
Yeah, so mid lane Pike's just one of those things. It's honestly an abomination of design.
He's not meant to be a solo laner.
No,
Riot does everything in their power to make
matter.
sure he's not a solo laner.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I've actually been playing against it recently. It just feels so bad because basically the way this Pike mid works is you just spam roam, like spam roam. You don't even bother last hitting, and you work off the gold that your ultimate generates you. And it's the exact same way like support works. It's just you get the XP advantage that you get from mid lane. And then because you're getting XP advantage, you should snowball faster, and you get the lethality items faster, and it's pretty annoying. Also, it's hard to push him out of lane, even in mid lane, just due to the massive amounts of regen that he has.
He just disappears after you chunk him.
Yeah, he just disappears, and then they all go like resolve second. So they go mostly Halo Blades into resolve. And then those Ultra, they just take like second wind. And then you just can't push him out of lane. And the other obnoxious thing about him is if you try too hard to push him out of lane, he's got some of the best gank assist out of any champion. So if you're trying too hard to bully him under tower, he just E flashes onto you with the jungler comes in and you die. So it's like, feels really, really bad. So it's definitely a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that's very consistent and works.
I look at B tier and then I look at champions like Mordekaiser, Garen, Malphite.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be here.
No, they should be there. Do you know their win rates?
I'm sure it's high. It's just you shouldn't be in mid lane. It's so obnoxious. Like you pick a mid lane champion, you want to duel against another mid lane, and then you're against like a Malphite or a Garen, and you're like, oh my god, this is why I stopped playing top lane.
So you actually notice that Nocturne and Garen specifically moved down, right? And they were A tier last patch, and they were A tier with Nocturne at a 55% win rate, with around 1 to 2% play rate, and then Garen had around a 56% win rate in mid lane with a 2% play rate.
God.
And the reason for that is, of course, they're like heavy anti-assassin picks. And so everyone in low elo, the top 10 mid laners in terms of play rate, 8 of them are assassins. The 9th one is Ahri, who is an assassin mage hybrid. And then the 10th highest pick is Lux. So there are 9 assassin picks in mid lane in the top 10 play rates. And so then they just run into Garen and they lose.
Okay.
So like that's why champions like Pantheon, Mordekaiser, Malphite, who aren't traditionally mid laners, are doing so well in mid lane. They're just countering what people like to play right now.
So more a product of the environment than actually being good.
Yeah, and then Riot had to specifically nerf them. Instead of nerfing the assassins that are popular, they decided to nerf Garen so that assassins can run free.
Well, when we move on to AD carry,
yes,
the pick that surprises me is Senna.
Yeah.
Because I think Senna isn't that viable as AD anymore. It's mostly fasting Senna
or
support Senna.
We kept her in there because of the fasting Senna strat. Now we're currently like in a inner debate about whether or not we should. So I'm currently voting to just remove her off the AD list entirely. But yeah, that's basically what it is. So Senna is only an S tier champion if you do the fasting Senna strat, which is basically you play her like a support with a support item. You let your support last hit. And then in the mid game, once your support item is complete, you can go back to playing her normal AD.
So there's a little bit of caveats with that. Even as fasting Senna, you still want to take about 2 CS per wave.
Yeah.
So take the 2 melee creeps. Never take the cannon minion, because cannon minion will always give you a soul. So you are fasting, but you're not starving. You're eating
I think they actually
bit.
removed the cannon thing, always giving you a soul.
Really?
Yeah, I think they reduced it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, that's on last hit. Right. So yeah. I think from support it's still fine.
And then the other picks that stand out, Veigar. I mean, you talked about why Veigar is OP in mid lane. I hate just seeing mages bot lane. It's
okay,
like,
so
this is my lane.
The interesting thing about Veigar and bot lane, so they did buff it specifically. They gave him higher AD and higher base damage on Q, which means it's easier to last it. But there's some support combos that are just like really busted. So the funny thing about Veigar bot lane is if you cage someone, then it automatically means that your support will be able to land their skill shot afterwards, or vice versa. And then at 6, he's just gonna one combo with the extra damage. Because normally in mid lane, like you got to get a little bit of poke damage in, and then you can combo them with your R to kill. But in bot lane, your support lands a stun, you just automatically combo on top, and they get 1 rotation from the extra support damage. And then there's also the fact that Alistar came back into the meta, which is a really funny combo, by the way, because all you do is you don't even have to land the cage.
He headbutts people into the cage wall.
Exactly, and then he gets a free headbutt afterwards. Pyke does the same thing. You put him in the cage, you drag them through it, and then you get double execute. Veigar ult into Pyke ult. So he's got some really like cheesy support combinations. Even like some of the standard engage things like Leona Nautilus provide enough CC and damage for him to do his thing. And he's just a lot easier to execute than a lot of ADs.
I was playing Ezreal, and I had a Veigar support, and whenever he would land cage, or even if he doesn't land it, I would just WR while they're inside the cage, and they would guarantee hit every time and be able to burst people.
Yeah, it's just it's a super easy, cheesy ball lane mage that you can use to pick up some free wins.
Yeah. Also, I tried a little bit of Misfortune.
Yeah, how'd
the
it
champion
go?
is actually the best AD carry right now if you're playing solo queue.
I told you.
She has so much stats, there's no outplaying auto Q auto.
Yeah, because the upfront, like if you get a crit on your first auto with the passive that she has, the other AD is so low they don't want to fight back.
Yeah, and also the ER, just using ER really quickly in a team fight.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill people. A lot of people, what they don't realize about Misfortune ult is you're never going to get the full 3 seconds of the damage off. What you're trying to do is chunk people much as possible or zone someone out.
Yeah, or split up the team fight. So like, for example, like if, like a Sylas or like a Renekton or like someone like dives into the team fight and then you ulti, the backline can't help them. They have to run away, so it just becomes like them versus your team.
What are some other interesting champions?
So for me, for ball lane, some of the big ones, obviously Kai'Sa is doing really well with her Halo Blades build when she goes AP. So it's the Mana Moon into Rage Blade into Nashers and then Azanya's Death Cap. That's the the most optimal solo queue style for her. Her win rate goes down a lot because there's a lot of Kai'Sa spotting moments and a lot of inefficient builds that are getting used. Cassio, another mage bot lane that's really, really, really good. I actually think she's better in bot lane than in mid lane, personally.
Why?
The reason for it is even though you get denied some of your XP, Cassiopeia is balanced around the fact that you have to hit your skill shots to deal damage. But in bot lane, if she has a support that lands CC for her, like Leona, Nautilus,
The damage is more free.
the damage is more free, and then you layer Miasma on top of it, and so she just gets an easy chance to scale. And the other downside to Cassio is, of course, her wave clear is kind of meh early on, and she has no lane priority, very similar to, and she can't roam. So mid lane right now is really roam heavy, right? Like, you gotta roam, you gotta get priority, and Cassio's not really about that life outside of specific matchups. So the fact that she gets to have someone protect her, set up skill shots for her in bot lane, and then she's not required to roam, I think is what makes her better as a bot laner. And stat-wise, she does better bot lane.
I want to ask about Aphelios. I see he's on B tier.
So bad.
Is he good in high elo at least?
Stat-wise, no. So, in low elo, he's got around a 47% win rate. In high elo, it goes up in Diamond Plus to around 49. And then in Challengers, where he starts to get strong, but the data is like really, really, really low. I think Aphelios is really strong, but he's a champion that can like never really show his stats, I feel. Because I feel like the people who are godly at him are just so different compared to literally anyone else. I feel like there's just like a gap between a regular Aphelios and a godly Aphelios that like it's never going to show up in stats. The other champion I want to briefly mention as like kind of up and coming star is Varus. He has two different builds that are viable right now. The regular Letho Tempo, Bork tank shredder, and then he's also got his lethality style. Both are really good. Lethality does better in solo queue because it's more lane dominant. You can just chunk one person out who doesn't know how to dodge right before a team fight, and then you pretty much win a dragon fight. So I really like the lethality Varus, or what I call the Legolas Varus style. It's really, really good in solo queue. He's one of the best performing high elo ADs as well. So I'd pick him up if you're looking for something that's not picked too much in low elo, but is actually incredibly strong.
Yeah, I think Varus is a hidden OP. His stats are fucking insane. Like, he has like misfortune level of stats in terms of just autoing people down. And also the CC with the ult is so nice with all the damage you just talked about.
Yeah. One of the questions in chat is basically, is there a roaming control mage? There's only one, in my opinion, like actual control mage, and it's Syndra. She's the only one that can be considered a control mage that plays like a control mage and roams. I don't really count things like Twisted Fate as a control mage. I don't count, really in Soul or anything like that. So if we're talking about like actual control mages that roam, Syndra would be your best bet.
All right, now let's move on to the final role, support.
Support. All right, so we got some interesting things. So in low elo, there's an interesting dynamic. So all types of supports are represented in low elo right now. You got enchanters, which are typically good in low elo, despite what people think. Everyone's like, I can't carry on support, but technically, just by playing support and scaling well, because enchanters on average are some of the best scaling champions in the entire game. You just win off of being able to team fight later on better than anyone else. Then you have the counter to enchanters.
The Blitz,
the Nautilus, the Leona, the Thresh, the Pike, all of these champions that just kind of hook them, and then they die, and then you can snowball on them. And then, this doesn't show up in high elo, almost no mage supports are good in high elo.
Really? I feel like stuff like Brand should be good in high elo.
Oh, you're trolling me right now.
Why?
I actually consider dodging every single time someone picks brand support on my team.
I love brand support. I play brand support all the time.
Yeah, well, all of your 80k players must hate you. All right, so
why?
So brand support actually has a 53% win rate in gold and below.
Yeah.
And it drops to 48 in diamond plus. And the reason for that is, fun fact, outside of Kalista top lane, which is an abomination, Brand has the highest deaths on average out of any champion in the game, and it's at 10. It's higher than Yasuo, right? So if there is a 10 death power spike champion, it is Brand. Average 10 deaths per game. It's actually crazy bad. He pretty much is into the laning phase in high elo. He just gets ganked and dies.
Okay.
And that's what happens to all mage supports in high elo. They get ganked and die. They do have specific counterpick situations. We've talked about this before in pro play, where if you're picking supports that have really bad gank assists like Tahm Kench or even, Braum to an extent, you can pick a mage support and just stomp them. The only mage support in solo queue that does well in high elo, do you know what it is? Can you guess?
So like the options are Xerath, Vel'Koz, like the only good high elo.
Zyra.
I was gonna say Zyra.
Yeah, but which one is it? And then there's Brandon Swain.
Oh, I think Swain. Swain's the one that does well in high elo.
No, he used to. He doesn't anymore.
Then Zyra.
No.
Okay, I don't know then.
It's actually Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz is the only one that retains an above 50% win rate in high-low. It's actually 52.
Why?
I actually don't know the real reason behind it. I'm not going to lie. I just know the stats behind it. So he's got around a 4% play rate and a 52% win rate in high-low. My guess is that the skill expression of Vel'Koz is higher than the other mage supports. And so the fact that you can actually land, like when you're that good at landing your skill shots, you can bully lane. That's my guess. I'm not gonna like lie and just like say I know why. It's just that's my best guess.
I would guess champions like Zyra are okay in high elo because you can 2v3 lanes sometimes.
You
even
can.
Even when you get ganked. Have you tried ganking a good Zyra? Oh my god.
He
will actually
there's
just
like
kill
5
you
plants.
and your jungler.
Yeah, there's like 5 plants and you just get destroyed. But yeah, Zyra hasn't been doing too hot lately. Funny enough, the tank supports are so tanky, they run through her damage and kill her.
Damn. Oh my god. Maokai. Oh, what are you guys doing?
Dude, Maokai support?
Maokai support.
Yes. Do you know Maokai
This is
support?
terrorism.
No, it's not. Maokai support is it's one of the hottest up and coming Chinese and Korean solo queue champions. For support, he's got a 54% win rate and a 2% pick rate. He's really, 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 really strong from the support role.
I do not endorse Maokai support.
I play it and it's really good. I have like an 80% win rate on Maokai support, 10 games. The other interesting support is Set. Set support is really popular in Korea and China right now, and it's doing extremely well. It's on our high-low list, but not our low-low list. But Maokai support, it's actually really good, man. The saplings give you brush control. They provide extra vision control for neutral objective fights. You can get targeted CC. The roams are good. It's actually really, really, really good. It's a counter to things like Leona and Nautilus too, because you just disengage with Q right after.
Okay, we can't end on a Maokai support note. What's another support that's really good that you can recommend people?
Besides Maokai support?
Besides Maokai support.
Let's see here. So, I mentioned Nami before. Actually, Taric. So, Taric is the best scaling support in the game statistically.
Highest late game win rate.
Yeah, highest late game win rate post 35 minutes. He's actually in the top 5 out of all champions for post 35 minutes. And he does well in high-low as well. And he's been paired in competitive with Kalista. He's also extremely good with Lucian. I can't stress enough how like I dread the day where people actually start playing Lucian Taric, because you queue up the stun and then Lucian dashes and guarantees stun. So you get a guaranteed Taric stun into Lucian combo for press the attack, and it's just... But yeah, so basically Taric's got some really good AD combos with Kalista and Lucian specifically, and he's got the late game stats to back it up. So if you're looking for someone that does well in high-low, does well in low-elo, scales well, and can still win lane, then Taric's your best bet.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the low elo tier list. It shouldn't even really be called low elo tier list. I like it better as solo queue because no one likes to mention themselves as low elo.
Yeah, you'd think that, but the YouTube algorithm says otherwise.
Really?
Yep.
All right, I'll try titling it low elo solo queue. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And one last thing, I'm not crazy. I'm just Loco. Bye.
Yeah, let's go. I ain't the first with the curse, with the thirst that I wanna be better, not worse, man, it hurts. I'm on this earth with my words, and I put them all together, insert, cause I wanna have worth. Working hella hard till they put me in the dirt. Gonna go far, man, listen to my words.